Right, maybe 4 or 3 countries. We can do it if we decide to put it together. But let's give ourselves time. Morocco, Portugal and Spain are hosting the next World Cup. The next AFCON is Tanzania, Uganda and Kenya. We're changing the narrative. Ghana, our neighbors look up to us. We can take the initiative and do that. But Charlie, it's investment and it's political vision and political will. It's not just the president saying, I want to do it. He's got to be back that it is not about NDC, Mahama or MPP, but this is what Ghana wants to do.
During the World Cup, our players all punching out. All the dedication, security, we cry. We're one of the players. But the facial buffling, I think, that's the thing that I can't say.
We know the mistakes we made and what we could have done to get a better result. The result didn't reflect what actually happened, which means we lost due to small details. Now we have new staff and players. We're in the quarterfinals against France, the once world champions. It's important we're all at 100% to get the result we need.
We need to recover and focus on the Morocco game. We know they're a really good team, and we're looking forward to playing them. We will give it our all to keep moving forward.
Shakira, we are ready.
We are ready.
We are ready.
We are ready.
We're ready.
We're ready.
We are ready.
We are ready.
We are ready.
We are ready.
We're ready.
We are ready.
We are ready too!
You knew from the day you were born that here in this place you belong. You've been this brave all along. What broke you once made you strong. Die, die, equal, darling, darling, let's go. Die, die, equal, darling, darling, let's go.
Come follow your desire. When there's a will, there's a way. You're the owner of that fire. No one can take it away.
Sweat and blood to write your story. That is how you pave the way. You're about to reach the glory. Only one step away.
All the highs and lows, all the tears and the pain.
You've been there through it all, been through it all. Just do it again. Now you got to believe, I believe. Cause you know what it takes to believe in my dream. At the top of your game. Feel it, got everything you need it. Now bring it like you need it. Just like you need it. Dale, olvida lo que vale. Juega como tú sabes. Como tú sabes. And it's just contagious, you know.
And it never fades.
No, no,
No one's getting tired.
I know.
You got that fire.
Hey, yo, dream a little higher. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Hey, yo. Hey, yo.
We've taken all that our hearts can hold. And we can't hold on to the past no more. From the dirt and the tears we may go. We are more than flesh and bones.
All the highs and lows, all the tears and the pain.
You've been there through it all, been through it all. Just do it again.
Now you got to believe, I believe. Cause you know what it takes to believe in my dream. At the top of your game.
Feel it, got everything you needed. Now bring it like you need it. Just like you need it.
Dale, olvida lo que vale.
Juega como tú sabes. Como tú sabes.
Pelé, Maradona, Maldini, Romario, Cristiano, Ronaldo,
El Vive, Iniesta, Beckham y Kaká.
Messi, Mbappé, Salah, Brasil, Uruguay, Argentina, Colombia, US, England, Germany, France, South Africa, España, México, Japan, Korea, Netherlands. Oh, eh, oh, eh. Eh, oh, eh. Oh, eh, oh, eh. Eh, oh, eh. Knew from the day you were born here in this place.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to SportsLink on Joy. Yes, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to SportsLink on Joy. 99.7 FM. My name is Victor Atsu Tamakloe. Today, I've got the pleasure of sitting in for the excellent Nathaniel Atto, who's unavailable today. We've got quite a show for you. Of course, as you expect, we will be big on the future, on the FIFA World Cup and the games that we've seen in the last couple of days. We've got the Black Stars conversation to have, because we need to contextualize every angle of the performance that we saw. How much of it is on the Ghana Football Association? How much of it is on the team, that is the players and the coach? How much of our current football fortunes can the governments of the day be held accountable for? Because it's important that we have these conversations and situate it in the right context in order not to just blame people for the sake of it. And even on the subject of blaming and demanding more, can we really, in good conscience, look at the prevailing circumstances and demand more from the Black Stars? Can we really do that when you consider the fact that this is our best performance in the major tournaments for 7 years? Well, I'll leave that question to you. But my guest and I will get into these matters, as we will the FIFA World Cup itself. The first semi-final pairing is known now. It will be France versus Spain in a repeat of the Nations League final, or Nations League semi-final, I beg your pardon. And we're going to have that on Tuesday in Dallas. I think that was also a semi-final of the European Championships, I believe, that we saw between Spain and France. So we'll discuss that. We'll discuss the impact of Kylian Mbappe as well. Welcome aboard to SportsLink on this day, Saturday, on Joy 99.7 FM. So Felix Romak is joining me. John Boafo will also be joining us to have this conversation, especially the Black Stars angle and the angle of the African teams at the FIFA World Cup. Because there has been some suggestions that we just don't have the mentality to compete at the elite level. We'll get into that. But Felix Romak is joining me, a brother, a friend, and a colleague. Felix, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon, especially at short notice. I'm not sure I can hear Felix Romak. I can see him talking, but Felix, have you unmuted on your end? Right. Now, thank you very much, Felix. I think I can hear you now. Now let's get into the conversation here and start with the Black Stars. We'll come to the semi-finals and the other issues in a bit. But really, could we have asked for more from the Black Stars than a run of 32 finish given the circumstances? Well, it looks like we're having trouble hearing Felix Romak. We'll try to rework the lines and then get that fixed. So Felix, you hold on to that thought for me for a second.
Shakira, we are ready.
We are ready.
We are ready.
We are ready.
We're ready.
We're ready.
We are ready.
We are ready.
82.
You knew from the day you were born that here in this place you belong. You've been this brave all along. What broke you once made you strong. Die, die, equal, darling, let's go. Die, die, equal, darling, let's go.
There's nothing in it now. All right, let's try one more time with Felix Romak and then see if we can get him on the line. Felix, can you hear me? Felix, can you hear me? Yes, he can hear me, but I somehow cannot hear Felix Romak when he is talking there. But we will work the lines again. You're live on Joy 99.7 FM. It's 12:30. And as I've said today, we've got quite a conversation to have. We'll look back on the FIFA World Cup first 2 quarterfinal matches that have been played and look ahead to the games coming up today. I think we've got Felix on the line. Felix?
Good afternoon.
Nice one. Yeah, I think it's better now. Let's get into the Black Stars conversation then. We exited at a run of 32, losing by a goal to 0 to Colombia in Kansas City about a week ago. I thought, if you go by the pre-tournament commentary, almost everyone said this team was not going to make it out of the group. There were a few like me who felt it was doable. Now they've done it. But all of a sudden, it appears as though people expected the team to do better than they have. Is that a fair expectation or assessment?
Well, I think that if you talk about expectations, I personally had a limited expectation going in. Am I audible?
I can hear you, yeah.
Okay. I had a very limited expectations going into the World Cup based on decisions by people in charge of our football. When I talk about the decision to bring in Carlos Queiroz late when we had some few weeks to the tournament, and then also the quality of materials in terms of playing body that was available. I had limited expectation. And I felt that if I look at the teams or the countries that are in the same group with Ghana, if you wanted to come out of that group, our opportunity was to beat Panama, and that's exactly what we did. And if I have to be very honest with you, if not for the round of 32, if not for the fact that out of the 48 countries that are playing at the tournament, there will be a position for the best third place teams, I don't think we would have qualified from the group. Because if it was previous World Cup, which was just 32, and the top 2 from each group will be qualifying, our fate would have just ended just like it did 4 years ago in Qatar. So I personally had a limited expectation, but I think that expectations can change, depending on the deliverables. So we went into the World Cup. We got a first one against Panama. We got a draw against England. So definitely, people will have different perception about the team now and different expectations. And that is why I'm sure that Ghanaians, per what they saw in the England-Panama game, thought, it would have been better if we had opened up a bit in the game against Colombia and then qualify for the round of 16. And for me, I think that those who demanded more from the team have every right to do so. But I personally had a limited expectation. I wasn't expecting the team to go as far as the round of 32, and that's exactly what happened.
I'll come to you in a bit to look at the group stage performance and the knockout phase, and then just give an assessment of whether or not the coach has done enough to be retained on the coaching angle of it. Because yesterday he said in that video with that Ghanaian in New York that he has not resigned, he's still in the frame, which means it's fair to surmise that he might be interested in taking this job long term. John Boafo is a sports marketing consultant, knows his onions when it comes to sports journalism, and is definitely someone who has followed the Black Stars long enough. And his opinion has a bit more weight than mine. John, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. We're on the theme of expectations and outcomes. Is it fair for people to have, or to now expect, that the Black Stars should have done more at the World Cup, or in your opinion they did just about what you expected them to?
Yeah, I think that because I've been working in the world of sports and of football specifically for quite a while, and because of everything that happened around the Black Stars, the squad, I didn't really have that much of an expectations for them in this past current World Cup. My expectations were really linked to them at least getting outside of the group stage, which they did. They had a really good game against this English team, but I didn't expect them to do well after that, just because it just seemed like there was a lot that they had to make happen, to be able to get to the top level. Unfortunately for them, there was a lot of factors that needed to be taken into account. The fact that, for example, they had some injuries within the squad, the fact that, Carlos Queiroz came in a bit late. And so all these factors make it so difficult for, people to be able to perform at that highest level. Whereas you have other teams like the French national team that have been together for a while, that have had Didier Deschamps that's been around for so long. So I don't think that people should be really disappointed by the performance of the Black Stars. But there needs to be a long-term plan that is put in together, a cohesive plan that helps, young players from the under 20s go on and move on to get into those Black Stars. And that needs to be done. And I'm sure that our friends at the GFA will be able to sit down and really assess and say to themselves, how do the next 4 years, how do the next 8 years look like? And that's how you then get success at the next World Cup and the one after that.
Right. And as I said, we will have an all-encompassing conversation. So the GFA angle certainly will be visited. Well, Samuel Ekowamosi is now in the studio with me. Sami, good afternoon. How are you doing?
Hi, good afternoon. How are you?
I cannot hear you, Sami.
Hi, good afternoon.
Have you turned your microphone on? Because come closer to this one and let's see if this one will work.
Hello? Hi.
Right. Did the Black Stars meet expectations?
Today, I think that yes. I think we're just exaggerating with the remarks by the sports minister. But first of all, good afternoon to Felix and then good afternoon to John. Like I was saying, I think we're just exaggerating with the sports minister saying that we're going to win, the GFA president saying that we're going to win. I think that the minimum expectation for this Black Stars team was to make it to the next round, because it cannot be a third successive time where we've been to the World Cup and we've not been able to make it out of the group phase. So I think that was the minimum target. Then again, you look at the qualities that we presented this time around and look at the trajectory of this Black Stars team. I think that was the minimum. I think that going to the round of 16 or even the quarters, I just would have been a plus. But to be honest with you, I think that was the minimum expectation. I think get to the round of 32, build on that, knowing that the AFCON qualifier is just around the corner, try as much as possible to get into that phase and then qualify, and then the subsequent ones. And so gradually, so for me, I think that's it. It's a simple answer. I think that was the minimum expectation. They did it, as expected.
Felix, last week, Carlos Queiroz puts out that very ambiguous statements on his socials, Facebook and Instagram, literally stopping short of saying he had resigned. So he uses the expressions that this is the end of this journey, that he's walking away, that it was an honor and a pleasure to serve Ghana, and even went ahead to advise us on what he felt Ghana, the GFA, needed to do for the Black Stars to be successful in the future. A little over a week later, he says, well, I did not resign, which puts him in the frame of it. So let's just say he is in contention for the job. Has he done enough to land it?
Actually, I won't say he's done enough.
From everything you've seen, from the collapse that took us to the tournaments, the friendlies, the group stage, round of 32 game, how he conducted himself off the pitch, press conferences, essentially, did he discharge himself in a manner that endears him to you to say that Carlos is our next coach?
I'll personally say that he hasn't really done enough, because I don't want to charge a coach based on 5 matches in charge of the national team. But I think that he's carried himself well. He has bonded well with the team within a very short period of time. And also among the managers or the previous managers that this Kurt-led administration have appointed, I think he's better than all the appointments they've made in terms of experience, in terms of this short period, the kind of results that he's been able to get. If for nothing at all, I'm watching the Ghana team that is not conceding 5 in games, 4 in games, three in games. So there is a foundation that he can build on. I won't say he has impressed me the most, but the potential is there, the experience is there. My only disappointment is the fact that if you look at this World Cup, after the group stage and the round of 32 games, about 9 to 10 coaches have resigned. About 9 to 10 coaches, some of them have stated clearly they are moving away. Some have said, oh, they want to stay back and reconsider if they want to continue with their respective national team. And I was thinking that the Ghana Football Association should have by this time come out with a statement and say, you know what, we are taking this guy into the next qualifiers of the AFCON and maybe take us to the AFCON proper, because September 21st, that is when the first game in the qualifiers begins. And mind you, we are in a very difficult group, especially coming back from the fact that even when we find ourselves in a group involving Angola, Niger, Sudan, we couldn't qualify for an AFCON. And then also the experience that went into appointing, or the decision I went into appointing Carlos Queiroz within 4 to 5 weeks before the start of the World Cup. We don't want to enter into the AFCON situation like that. So it means that if you get rid of Carlos Queiroz within this period, August is almost ended. It means that you are bringing in a coach in August. How much time would that coach have to assemble a team, to assess a team into starting an AFCON qualifier? So if we want to continue with Carlos Queiroz, the FA should come out as soon as possible and tell us that this is what we want to do. We want to give the job to this man for this particular period of time. We want him to build on the foundation that he started with at the World Cup. Then Ghanaians will be at peace. Then the players themselves know very well that, okay, there is some continuity. But we are all in the limbo. The coach came up with a statement. Yes, people deduced whatever it is they wanted to deduce from that statement. But the FA and the ministry should be coming out by now. It's been a week past we lost that game against Colombia. At least the FA should come out and say, you know what, okay, give us 2 weeks. We are assessing the possibility of retaining the man or moving forward without him, getting another appointment. Because give and take, from what we've known, come this FA, it takes them about a month or two to appoint a new coach. But we have an AFCON qualifiers in September. So this is what disappoints me. But if the FA makes a decision to continue with the Portuguese, I will be happy with that, because yes, he hasn't really impressed me, but the experience and the foundation and the few things I saw means that he will be a better option than the previous ones that the FA had appointed before. And for me, I would say this: the FA has been the biggest problem with the technical team when it comes to selection of coaches. They've gotten it wrong in the previous coaches that they've appointed. But I think this one might be a bit better than the previous ones.
John, do you share that same view with Felix? Because it looks like while he is not 100% sold on, he gravitates towards it because of the circumstances and also because of what Carlos Queiroz did in the short time he was in charge.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree with Felix that there's not that much time to be able to find a replacement for Carlos Queiroz, but I also think that the GFA would have probably planned for it and probably put out feelers out to try to figure out who they can bring in to replace this current coach. I think that a part of Ghanaians also would not have probably liked the way that the Ghanaian Black Stars set out and the way that they played, quite defensively. And they would probably be okay if there's a new coach that comes in that plays a little bit more, attacking gusto. And in the end, if, Ghana doesn't get the best of results, at least there's a little bit more of excitement within the game. Although I was very happy with the fact that they were able to perform at a good level against especially the England team, and so it probably warrants Carlos being able to stay a bit longer in the role. I think that the words that Carlos said yesterday or whenever it was recently are subject to interpretation, and maybe it's him also covering himself and saying anticipating that if for a reason or another he has to or he's asked to leave the role, at least he's shown that it's not coming from him, and he still has a desire to stay on as Black Stars. But we'll see within the next probably couple of weeks to a couple of months what ends up happening and who ends up running this Black Stars team. But at the end of the day, it's going to be a key role, because the person who comes in needs to ensure that they qualify for the next AFCON in a tough group, like Felix mentioned. And I personally will be looking forward to the double matchup against the Ivorian team, since I'm based out of Abidjan.
This idea of Carlos Queiroz style and how it presumably conflicts with the skill sets profile of players that we have got, and even the way Ghanaians generally view the game. Do you anticipate that in the future it could come back to bite if Carlos Queiroz gets the job, given that he is predisposed to being a very pragmatic, if you like, defensive coach, and you've got a group of players who grew up in an era where football is fronts first, being proactive first, and especially the Ghanaian way of seeing the game? Do you expect this to be a problem in the future? If he gets the
really
job, that
depends.
is.
Yeah, I would say it really depends how long he ends up staying within the role, because you could compare his type of style to the pragmatic style that Didier Deschamps had for years and years and years, where, as French fans started to complain that, yes, he had, very, very attacking players, but in the end, he was playing a very pragmatic, counter-attacking football. So it really depends on how long Carlos Queiroz is comes around. And it also depends on how the players also react to his playing style. I think for a tournament, it's okay to play a certain kind of way, trying to get as far as possible as you can. But for qualifiers, when you have to go and play some really, really tough teams, you expect, especially at home, you expect them to be more free flowing, more on the front foot. And if fans see that at home, there's more of a defensive style, then it's going to be problematic. But like I mentioned before, it really depends how long he stays. I think that we end up all being very pragmatic, and at the end of the day, if Carlos stays on and is able to qualify this Black Stars team for the next AFCON, we will kind of not care about how he end up getting them there.
Samuel, I'll come back to you in a bit, but Felix, given where we have come from, Charlie, in the last since 2019, the most number of games we've won in any major tournament is one. So we won one in Egypt, then in Cameroon. Cameroon, we didn't win any game.
No, in Egypt there was no win.
In Egypt there was one win. 2019.
Yes. Right.
In Cameroon we didn't win any game.
Sure.
In Cote d'Ivoire we didn't win any game. The next AFCON, in fact, we didn't qualify.
Yeah, sure.
In fact, we haven't won a game at the AFCON in 6 years.
Yeah.
The only other wins have come at the World Cup. So against South Korea on match day 2, and then this time around against Panama on match day 1. Sure. Felix, given where we have come from, do you feel it's a trade-off, this whole style, substance, and the reality that while Carlos Queiroz methods may be good, you are going to have a possibility where you will complain about how he gets the results. Should we not be open to the idea of, at this point, given how not competitive we have been, should we not just be focusing on what restores competitiveness, what restores winning for a sustainable period first? Let's just get used to winning before we think of the style arguments. Felix, should that not be a reasonable position for us to assume?
Well, actually, before I answer your question, we should also forget the fact that the last AFCON qualifiers, we failed to win a game at home.
Yeah, in fact, we didn't win a game. We didn't win a game at all.
Yes, we didn't win a game at all. But see, I know a lot of people talk about the style of Carlos Queiroz, but the truth be told, when we come up against teams that are better than us, he will set up in such a manner. But we won't always come up against teams that are better than us in the qualifiers and at the AFCON.
Yeah.
So I definitely believe that there are games that we will open up and play. You don't expect Ghana to go to Ivory Coast, where there will be John Boafo in the stadium cheering the elephant on, and you expect us to go and open up against Diomande and Co. No, you
That's true.
understand.
Yeah.
But at Grass Sports Stadium or at home, you expect us to open up. So I don't want to buy the idea that he's a very defensive-minded coach. Sometimes in certain games, you need to be very pragmatic.
Yeah.
And then I also feel that the reason why I probably might want him to continue is the fact that I think that sometimes players look at who is handling them, they give that person the respect and play for the coach. I'll honestly have to tell you, I think that most of the performances I saw from certain players at the World Cup, they had to improve because of a certain coach. We saw the same players under previous coaches, under Otuado. And I can give you an example, Gideon Mensah. I wasn't impressed about Gideon Mensah under Coach Otuado. But I saw a different Gideon Mensah. I can boldly say he was one of the best, if not the best Ghanaian players at the World Cup. And that is why it didn't take him long, even before the World Cup ends. As a free agent, he's gotten a club in Germany. Going
Look,
to play for FC
this might sound like I'm exaggerating when you first hear it, but when you think about it, you'd know it's true. That performance from Gideon Mensah at this World Cup, I think it's better than any Ghanaian left back performance at any tournament that I can remember. You'd have to go back to maybe the 90s, because from the 2000s coming, the strongest performance you can think of was Hansedu Sape at 2010 World Cup.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was better than this Gideon Mensah performance.
And you see, the reason why this Gideon Mensah performance was extraordinary was the fact that he didn't have midfielders tracking to even help
to
him
support him. Yes,
you understand. And another thing is the fact that we saw what Marvin Senaya has in him.
Yeah,
we had a coach who was bold enough to tell us that we don't have right backs in this country. But Carlos Queiroz comes in, and we saw the performance of Marvin Senaya. So I would like for him to continue, because I feel that sometimes players look at you as an experienced coach, where you've been, the teams you've coached. Actually, any player will respect a manager who has worked with Manchester United before, who has worked with Real Madrid before, who has coached at the highest level before. And we saw some of the vibes that he brought to the Black Stars camp, and the amount of respect that he got from the boys. You understand? So that is one of the reasons why I would want him to continue. But if it is about tactics, it's about system. I don't think Ghana will be this defensive in all the games that we will play in. When it comes to the African game, there are some games that we will have to be very pragmatic and defensive and try and play teams on the counter. We will play teams on the counter attack when we are playing away from home. We will play the likes of Morocco or Egypt or Ivory Coast. We will play very pragmatically or even defensively when we come up against them. But I don't expect us to sit at Accra Sports Stadium and play a very defensive game against Sudan or Niger or Angola.
Yeah.
Even if it is the Moroccans or the Ivorians that comes to Accra, we should be able to be a bit open and then go for the win. So I don't see this system, the World Cup system, which was a bit defensive-minded or three at the back or two double pivots. I don't think that will happen in most of the matches, especially in the AFCON qualifier. So yes, he's a very defensive coach, but he won't be defensive throughout all the games. And like you said, when it comes to the senior national team, actually, you need to have a development plan, and that will start from your youth level. Gone are the days when we all talk about how we need to improve our Ghana Premier League, because that fits into our national team. But actually, we've gone past that era. Now, we've seen scouts and teams coming down to the second division, the local academies, and buying players right from those lower leagues and sending them to Europe.
Yeah.
So now, the new strategy is teams or players in Europe will be fed into the national team. Hardly. See, I don't think in the next 5-10 years we will see a player move directly from the league into the national team. That era is past. If you are good in the league, your age should be right. Your mentality should be right. but you have to have a breakthrough in Europe before you get your way into the national team. It has to be in an exceptional way, like the way we saw Benjamin Asari, where we were struggling with a department that people have come in and have never staked claim to it. So we had Jojo Wallacott, Atizigi himself, Richie Dofori, all these players came into a certain department, which was the goalkeeping department, but they never stake a claim to it. And then there was a local player who had a constituency. If I say the constituency, he had a lot of people shouting for him to get a chance. When he got there, he took the chance and was part of the team. But it would be difficult to see an outfield player from the local league going straight into the national team. So yes, we would have to, find a way to win, or winning for the national team. But you need to have a plan. But at the meantime, when it comes to senior national team, at that level called the senior national team, all we care about is winning. But your plan to sustaining that winning is to make sure that you have a very good, youth system where, the migration of players from 17 to 20 to 23. And actually, I've had a major problem with it. I feel that for us to even get to that level, why is the under 17 coach not an assistant coach to the U20?
We'll come to that. Yeah, Felix, we'll come to that in a moment. But Sammy, let me start that leg of the conversation with you because you have not spoken in a while. So we appear to be clear in our minds that continuity will be good for the Black Stars coaching-wise. But there are still concerns about what has made us not successful for the last 7 years. Because I think that is where the residual anger is sourced. Because I don't think anyone in his right senses will be upset that the Black Stars made a run of 32. Yes, disappointments about the manner of the exit, but generally, if you consider that this is our best performance at a major tournament in 7 years, the team deserves a bit of grace. But on the reasons that inform the residual anger, or that foundation, the residual anger, I think we all know it has been the repeated years of malaise across various national teams, and the 17 and the 20, the Olympic team, the Chan teams, which no longer exist, and now the Black Stars. How do we stop this rot of getting to a point? Now, if you look back, there is no new generation of players coming through.
It's a problem.
At the under 17, under 20. If you ask me, I don't know. And this should be my bread and butter as a journalist. But when you look, there's nothing to point to.
Exactly.
How do we go? Where do we go from here?
I think it's tough. I think exactly that was the path I think Felix was driving or was heading towards. But actually, I have always said that. See, when the FA president took over office, I have been saying that he had a perfect opportunity to put things in place, to do the right things. When I talk about the right things, I mean the collapse of the various national teams, the appointments through the ranks from the lower national teams to the Black Stars. But I think the constant chop and change and the number of players that were getting into the national team clearly shows you that something is wrong somewhere. And maybe they were just doing it for the moment, but whilst they were doing that, it was coming to a point where it was definitely going to affect us, and that is where we are now. Now, you look at, just like what you said, you look at the various national teams, there is no stability in there. The number of players are in there, just like what Felix said, before we even discovered them, the Europeans have already, taken them away. So it looks like there is no progression. And just to answer, you asked, Felix, a certain question that I just wanted to touch on that very quickly, and then we'll move on. You ask him whether the style of play is going to change. And I think that, these are the players that we have. And I believe that the coach looked at the players that we had, or we have at the moment, and then he had to put in place a game plan. How are we going to play against opposition? Felix and John Boafa has alluded to the fact that maybe when we go to the AFCON, when we come up against a more quality opposition, we might be expansive, open up and play with them. Because we sitting back, it's always not going to win us games. But how do we stop this? I think it's very difficult because as at now, you hear a number of people, lower national teams, they are going to camp, and you still don't see any exceptional players in there. They go to tournament, they fail to qualify, and after that we disband the team, and a new crop of players will emerge. They will have to go to camp for 2-3 months. They will go to tournaments. They will come back. Let me just ask you a simple question: where is the Prosperna Teogum's team that played in the U17 AFCON? I'm sure if you ask anybody, it will be very, very difficult for that person to trace where these players are at the moment. But anyway, regardless of their failing to qualify, they will keep them because, of course, there are other good players that are also coming through the pipeline. But the point is that you don't do that. We've done this over and over again. And look at now. When Asamoah exited the Black Stars, we hope that, we're hoping that Jordan Ayew will step into his shoes. Inaki Williams were coming up. But these players have failed to fill in, the shoes of Asamoah. They have failed to do what Asamoah used to do for us. And these are players that are gradually, exiting the national team. So you ask yourself, if they fade out, if they exit the national team, who takes over? So for me, it's very, very difficult. And there is something that the FA president did when we were going to the World Cup. He was in the UK, where he met a couple of players that are in there, he was trying to talk to their parents for them to come down, for them to come and play the national team. If we are using the Right to Dream example, if one player is able to walk throughout the whole country and is able to discover talent, why can't we equally do that? Do we need to go all the way to the UK to try and go and convince them to come and play for us, while one person is here traveling around the length and breadth of this country trying to get in players to nurture them, and then he sells them abroad? Why can't we equally do that? Do we need to necessarily travel all the way to the UK to those places to go and bring players down here to come and play for the national team? It tells you that you are not doing something right. It clearly tells you that you are not doing something right here. So for me, I think that, listen, it stems from Kurt taking over and some of the appointment that he made and some of the decisions that he made through the various national team appointment. It was in this same studio when he told Gary that famous quote. Yeah. And it was clear. And as of now, we are struggling. So for me, how do we stop it? I think that, listen, we need to go back and then try to correct some of the mistakes. This thing about we trying to get quick results, it doesn't work anywhere. You need patience, and that patience you need to get communicated right to the masses, communicated properly to the public.
Right.
So for me, I think that the mess has been created right from when the FA president took over. And the last time I was having a conversation with Daniel, and I think, when even before CK even got sacked, CK worked with close to over 200 players. It's not done anywhere. You need stability. And so if CK has some very core good players, of course, some players that CK work with, they are still in the national team.
Yeah.
But you don't work with, CK spent like less than 2 years on this job. And you work with close to 200 players. It's not done anywhere. So for me, it's about how, when Kurt took over and some of the mistakes that he's done, and for me, how do we stop it? I think that we need to go back, try as much as possible to build from the grassroots, and let's communicate out there. If we qualify, fine. If we don't, we still build on that. But I think that this thing about quick fix and quick results, it's not going to work for us anyway.
Well, let's try and move the conversation on. I was hoping we would find time and then discuss the government's angle of it, or even expand on the GFA bit of it. But John needs to leave us, so maybe we need to put this bit on ice, handle the African team representation at the World Cup with him, and then he takes leave of us. John, for the first time, we had 9 African teams in the second round of the FIFA World Cup. Should that not be what we're focusing on as a pointer to the growth of the game, but also what we can do with more slots as a continent than how the teams exited the tournaments?
Yeah, I think it's cause for a little bit of positivity and thinking to themselves that, okay, out of the 10 that did end up qualifying, one qualifying through the playoffs, which is Congo, 9 of them were able to go to the next round, which is positive. But the way that they did exit really leaves us with a sour taste in our mouth. But it also gives us a lot of hope, and to say to ourselves that, okay, well, the last representative, that was Morocco, ended up losing 2-0 against brands, but they played in this kind of manner and in a way that was exciting. And I think, but going back to the conversation about the Black Stars, that's the kind of way of playing that we expect as Ghanaians that the Black Stars would play. But going back to the African teams, I think that they'll be happy with the experience of going to the World Cup and being and also have this kind of hunger to say to themselves that they'll want to do as much as they can to first of all have a good performance in the next AFCON, and then try to qualify also for the next. World Cup, which will be a huge World Cup because it's going to be in 3 countries, including in Morocco, and they'll want to be there and and perform at the highest level. So I would say that it was positive for them to be able to qualify all 9 of them out of the group stage, but there's still that step that needs to be we need to go a bit further to be able to really compete with the biggest nations around the world. And people were able to step up and see that there's a lot of talent in Africa, and that when we're given opportunities, African teams are able to step up. And you can also contrast what the African teams were able to do with what the AFC or the Asian teams weren't able to do. So we're at least that step ahead, and hopefully within the next 4 years they'll be able to close that gap with the European and South American teams to go even further in the next AFCON. And
is it
the next World Cup?
Is it harsh to say that countries like Cote d'Ivoire, Senegal, possibly Egypt, could have gone farther or further than they did?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's harsh. I think it's the reality. They had those games in hand, and it's well documented that after the 80th minute, something happened and things just broke down. It's very disappointing, especially as someone that lives in Ivory Coast, to have seen the manner in which they conceded late and were kicked out. Similarly, for Senegal, and even I think the worst out of those examples is the Egypt one, because you say to yourself, you're up 2-0, you scored a goal that was ruled out. You had a lot of opportunities, but in the end you lose 3-2, and so you must have been really gutted. And there was different reactions from the players. Some of them talked about the refereeing, some of them talked about the other team, etc. But at the end of the day, they need to take the responsibility for not being able to manage and see out that game. And that's probably the biggest lesson that African teams need to take in these games. At the highest level, it's not over 80 or 86 minutes that you have to play, but you have to play over the entirety of the 19 plus minutes to be able to make it to see these games out and to be able to make it to those next rounds.
Right. Felix, let me come back to you then on that bit. Were you satisfied with the performances of the African teams?
Yes, I think so. If you had 10 representatives in a World Cup and then had 9 qualifying for the round of 32, I would say it's quite a good number. We saw how none of the Asian teams managed to get into the run of. I think apart from Australia, they had only 1 representative. As for the Europeans, we know definitely that they come into the World Cup with a larger number of countries. So I think in all, I was quite impressed with how we had 9 of the teams from Africa getting into the round of 32. My only disappointment was the fact that we should have gotten more than 2 qualifying to the round of 16, because I felt that Ivory Coast could have done it. I also felt that Egypt could have done it as well. And I totally agree with John when he spoke about managing games. I don't want to believe that there is this African mentality, and that is the reason why we can't hold on to wins in this game, because at this World Cup we've had African teams, taking the lead and then won games. Some of them have drawn games as well, So the South Africans, for instance, took the lead against the Australians and the South Koreans, and they won that particular game. They also beat South Korea as well. Ghana had the lead against Panama. We went on to win that game, same as Algeria. So I don't want to believe that it's an African mentality thing, or African mindset thing. We just fail to manage game in those moments. And then also I feel that it is the quality. Because if you look at the European teams and even the Argentinian team or the French team that we all talk about, it is the quality that they have on the bench. But most of the African teams are always focused about getting averagely 15 better players, and then maybe the others come and make up the 26 for the World Cup. So African teams normally start with their strongest 11, and that is the go-to for them. We've seen a Belgian team that can bench Kevin De Bruyne, bench Lukaku as well. We've seen the Spanish team benching Nico Williams and even Lamine. But hardly would you see African team not playing their strongest 11. So when there is the moment where they get tired and need to make changes, the other teams or the European teams or the South American teams have quality on the bench that comes in and change the games for us. A lot of people were saying, "Oh, Africa would take advantage of the heat in America and then maybe go on and win games." But we should also forget that some of these African players have left the country or their various countries in Africa, and they've been playing in Europe.
Yeah.
So yes, they might be born in Africa, but they also have effects of the heat. And I'm not a fan of the hydration break, but it has also helped to manage the situations for the Europeans and then the South Americans as well. So for me, the key reason why a lot of African teams, lost games in very crucial moments is the fact that the teams that went on to win, Belgium had quality in the bench, so they came on, changed the game for them. And then also our failure to manage game in the dying moments of it, because a South American team would want to go to the corner and waste time. Though FIFA has tried as much as possible to cut down on time wasting, there are various ways that these European teams can find a way and then waste time or take some time off or manage the game in the dying embers of it. Then again, it has to be officiating, especially with the VAR. I feel very disappointed with the protocol, because if you look at the European teams, whenever a goal is scored against them, especially with the African teams, the series of protocols they have to go through to check that goal, it is different when it is an African team that gets to score. So let me make reference to Ghana versus England. Are you sure if Harry Kane or maybe if Benjamin Asare was imposed for Ghana, had gone in and
if rules had been
Harry
reversed,
Kane, yes, they would have gone through the series of protocol and get checked by VAR. We had Konsa going in hard on Prince Kwabena, nothing. That VAR didn't even blink. We saw the 2 goals that Egypt scored against Argentina. Every one of them, I think apart from the first goal, it was checked. The protocols were observed. But look at the Argentine goals. Nothing, not even that. See, the foul against Salah, I think it was the right call from the referee. But there should be instances, if it had happened at the other side, if it was Messi who was being stamped in the box,
you think it would have been reviewed?
Yes. So
okay.
I think that officiating, I totally agree that officiating, especially those in charge of the VAR, they haven't been very good to our African brothers. So these are some of the contributing factors.
Right. Circle back to the conversation about the African federations and narrow it down to the Black Stars, the Ghana Football Association, and see how we can produce stronger teams at the FIFA World Cup. So, I want you to focus on 2 things on this continental angle. The perception of mentality and the lack of it on the part of African teams, and the reality of where we can head to.
Well, I don't know, but I mean, with regards to the mentality thing, I just don't know. But then I also think that it is something that is a truth. Yeah, I mean, I was just saying that with regards to the mentality thing, to be honest with you, it's very, very difficult to discuss it. But then the point is that, listen, what we've seen, we saw the collapse of Senegal, we saw Egypt collapsing at the tail end of the particular of that game, against Argentina. I think if we are there 100% in terms of mentality, listen, I don't think you'll be able to collapse at that dying embers of the game. You always find a way, to stay focused, to stay in the game and try as much as possible to win it. The mentality thing for me, I've heard a lot of people discussing it. I've heard a lot of people saying all sort of things. But in my opinion, I think you take out Morocco and for what they've done, and I think a bit of improvement from, Egypt and then Ivory Coast. They all going, beyond the group phase for the first time in their history. You just have to praise them. But then you shouldn't forget about, I think, what Felix has touched on in terms of the quality aspect. But I think generally, we've seen even teams with, quality at some point in time collapsing at dying embers of the game, conceding late goals in some of their matches. So for me, I think it's more of like a mentality thing. Listen, if we are playing some of the best teams, and that is why when you see teams, some of the best teams like whether you can talk about Argentina, the Netherlands, England, and then the likes, those top ranked teams, once they put the ball at the back of your net, if you don't stay focused, if you don't try as much as possible to do what it needed of you, they will come back. They will rally from behind. And that is, for me, I think it's a mentality thing. If we're able to put the ball at the back of, for example, if we're playing against England, if we're playing against Argentina, if we're playing against Holland, if we're playing against any of the best top teams in the world when it comes to the FIFA World Cup, once you put the ball at the back of their net, find a way to sustain that, find a way to win. I don't think that, look at the Senegal example. You've taken, the Egypt, for example. You've taken 2-goal lead. Same as the Senegal situation. You've taken 2-goal lead. The bit on the thing that Felix touched on in terms of the VAR and some of the decisions and all that.
Yeah.
There have been viral videos also suggesting that, for example, a classical case has to do with Argentina in the Egypt game. It has been one-sided. But there are also equally, videos that you could see that Egypt, one way or the other, also benefited from poor officiating. So I think that there are always two angles when it comes to that. But for me, Victor, I think it's a mentality thing. And I think that we are not there yet, honestly. How do we improve on that? How do we get it better? I think you go back to Morocco and what it did. And I listened to Sani Dara, he speaking extensively about Morocco and what they've done. I think in the last edition of the World Cup in Qatar, I think he was appointed as a consultant to work for them. Yeah. And you could see, he tells you that each player has been given a personal psychologist. Each player has been assigned a personal psychologist, and they take all the players through very, very, very rigorous lessons and how to psych the players to stay focused on the field of play. And it was not surprising they were able to go all the way out to play in the semis for the first time in the history of Morocco. So for me, I think it's just a mentality thing. Listen, you can't produce the number of, the representative that we had, 10. You're getting, Tunisia existing in the group phase and then now going to the round of 32. Of course, the quality are not the same. But for me, you don't take a 2-goal lead against Belgium. You don't take 2-goal lead against Argentina. Find a way to win the game. Find a way to sustain it. So for me, I think, people have opinions, but I think it's down to the mentality.
All right. You're still live on Sports Link on Joy 99.7 FM. It's 19 minutes gone past 1. My name is Victor Atsu Tamakloe here with Felix Rumark. John Boafo has joined us for this as well, as is Samuel Eko Amwesi. We have a fourth guest who's joining us on Zoom in a moment for us to have this conversation. Now, we will use the next 20 minutes to talk about the federation's, specifically the Ghana Football Association. I know some of the guys have touched on it in bits and pieces in their analysis. Felix, today we have seen the Gideon Mensah move that he is going to Cologne in the German Bundesliga.
No, the deal has been confirmed actually.
Yeah. And we have gotten a reminder that he is a product of the 2009 class of the Milo Games, as if to remind us of what used to make us great in the past. What are the significant steps that we need to retrace or that we need to take if we are to be good at this football thing again? Because it is not by accident that for 10 years or so, every football at every level in the country is tanking. Under 17, under 20, under 23, Olympic team, Chan, Black Stars. It cannot be a coincidence.
Well, actually, but first of all, I must say for us at Milo Nestle, we're still running the Milo Games, the Milo Champions League. And we are producing talent. Yes. So that hasn't changed. That hasn't changed. And I have to very bold and tell you that some of the players that came out from this year's Milo U13, some have gone. They are retired to Dream Academy now. So in future you see them, just like we've produced, the Fatai Isaaku and Kevin Nkrumah and co. But you see, you talk about the FA, which is very important. I know very well that you didn't want us to talk about the government aspect, but I'll leave that because the government has to provide the infrastructure.
But if you can box it together, if you can box it together, because we won't come back to this again.
Yes, so there should be. I've said this. I think government, the FA, and the ministry are the key people. I say government, I say the ministry. You can say they are two people. But if there is a political will to improve sports, and probably not just football, it has to start with government. And I say this because you've seen politicians mount on political podiums telling Ghanaians that vote for me when I come to power. I'm going to improve the economy. I'm going to build hospitals. I'm going to build schools and all that. If there is no political will to say, you know what, I am breaking down the Accra Sports Stadium to build an ultramodern sports facility. If I'm going to renovate, I'm not just going to renovate the Barbara Sports Stadium or the Esipon Sports Stadium, but I'm going to modernize it. That is not the effort of the GFA. There has to be a political will. The Ivorians have improved their sporting facilities. The Senegalese have done that. The Moroccan, king. There has to be a political will. We have been to 5 World Cups. There is no legacy project to say this is what we got from football by participating at the World Cup. The money from FIFA doesn't go to the FA. It goes to government. It goes to the consolidated accounts, not even the ministry. So that is where it has to start from. Then again, the people at the FA, what is their plan? Do they have a plan to make sure that we are developing our game from the league to the juvenile teams to the senior national team? And they have a huge responsibility because government can still provide the facilities, and then if you have a bad leadership at the FA, there is nothing we can do. So it is very, very important that yes, we get the facilities up, but then the FA has to have a plan. Actually, if we can have the Ministry of Education pushing government to build schools, and I want to be a doctor, I first of all need a physical structure, which is a school for me to attend and become a doctor. In the same way, we can also say, the FA can even push government. Let's put up an academy that can provide education and football for people within the country, or boys within the country, girls within the country who want to take football as their career. Because at the point, maybe you can start from the juvenile level, there might be injury, and then you can't play football again. But because there is an educational aspect attached to it, you can continue education from that. Then when it comes to the development of our football, actually, why is it that only people within the football ecosystem can make key decisions with our football when it comes to our football? So there's a group calling themselves football people, delegates, who go and vote for who becomes the FA president. Why must it be so? You understand? It is very, very difficult. These same people can go and say the 2-term limit that was brought about by by normalization to make sure that you don't go beyond the two-term level, you don't become corrupt, you don't become stagnant with your ideas. After 8 years, you are gone. Somebody comes in with fresh ideas, or probably continue from where you ended your term. They went to Congress, decided let's put that aside, and then bring in a third term. So we've had a few people managing our game. I mean, I keep telling people that I wish we had a very larger number of people at delegates. You can't bribe everybody to vote for you. You understand? So it is difficult for us. A lot of people who love football are more than people doing football. But the few people that are doing the football have hijacked the entire football ecosystem. So
Well, it's probably because they are the ones making direct, sustained investment into the sport, wouldn't you say?
Actually, let me tell you something. It is just even a few people. The people that are actually making money with our football, you can't even count 20 of them. I'm telling you for a fact. I am telling you, the clubs are not making money.
Right.
The owners of the club are just people with money, and they love football. It's just an hobby. You understand? But the FA, for me, has totally failed us. And that's why I came back to you talking about how clubs in the lower division, in academies, are making huge transfers fee for transferring their players to Europe than the Premier League clubs. And that has been the norm. And I ask again, why can't the under 17 coach be an assistant to the under 20 coach? Why can't the under 20 coach be an assistant to the U23 and maybe an assistant to the national team? And when you do this, it creates a path for player development, for player integration, and player movement. So if I coach the under 17 and I spot a talent there, because I happen to be under 20 assistant coach or part of the under 20 technical team, I can say, John, who is the under 20 coach? Oh, John, I spotted a talent in my youth 17. Give him an opportunity. If John happens to be the assistant to the national team because he coaches the U20, he will tell you, oh, I've seen Atsu Tamakloe. This is a fine defensive midfielder who has potentials of being the next Partey or Essien. And then there will be a looking. But we sit here and the FA comes out with a recruitment or a justify your inclusion. Even the justify your inclusion, playing on the AstroTurf for kids that are 12, 15, it is dangerous to their health, but they still do it. We still talk about it. And then after all this nationwide tour to select players for the national team, when it comes to the final selection, people that are closer to the corridors of power when it comes to our football get their players into the various youth system or the youth national teams or the juvenile teams. I am not saying that it is bad. If a player is good and his manager or his club owner is closer to the corridors of power and he gets opportunity to play, fine. But we've seen better quality players being dropped in favor of players of those that are closer to the corridors of power. So there is no transparency, there is no fairness, even with the selection process when it comes to our juvenile football. You understand? At the senior national team level, it's a different thing altogether. I don't even want to go into the playing bodies, but look at the people that have appointed coaches for our national team. People at the FA, the executive committee members, they make decisions for appointing coaches. Did they get it right with the Milo second coming? Did they get it right with Sike Akono? Did they get it right with Chris Hilton? Did they get it right with Otuado? No. But these same people keep appointing coaches for us. If they should be the one changing themselves because they've not been good. Because their process of finding us a coach has been awful with the last 6 appointments that they've made. You understand? But when you have the same group of people, friends and family, all within the same constituency, taking football decisions for us, it will be very, very difficult. They will tell you it is our association. But not forgetting the fact that those that are outside your association are the ones that can even bring you money. And again, I ask myself, do we even have a statistics that government can say this is the amount of money, remittances, that football contributes to the GDP of the economy? We don't. If you have an idea about it, I think government will probably be serious and say, you know what, there's a lot of millions of dollars and euros coming into the economy through football. Let me keep my eye on that. The South Americans are doing it. The Brazilians are doing it. The British government know very well that the influx of foreign players into the Premier League, into the Championship, into their national league generates a lot of revenue for them.
Okay.
They are taxing them. So actually, it's a collective thing. Governments. As for I don't think I have enough time to even go to the ministry, but maybe some.
But
other
you've
day
done
when
well.
we are talking
You
about-
boxed the two together.
Yeah, but you see, actually,
let me get to John.
Right,
there.
right.
Yeah, and then I'll come to you. I've been told that Joel Eshen, who is a journalist based in the United States, has also joined us,
Right.
and we'll be hearing from him shortly. John, we appear to have a template in place for youth football for as far as the conveyor belt is concerned. So you go through the under 17 if you're good. First, often we pick from the secondary school Itako, and then you from there Milo games as well. But those two were the places that you would go to if you wanted to identify youth talent. So from there, you could make it into the national youth side, start from under 17, under 20. Why is it that today's group of football administrators have found it convenient to set aside a very time-tested pathway?
That's a very good question. I think that at the end of the day, it's not necessarily a problem that they have changed the way that they want to be able to get the talent, but you have to find the right way of doing it. And sometimes you need some innovation and you need to change the way things were, as long as at the end of the day you are successful in the way that you are able to bring in this the talent and be able to integrate them into the national setups. I think that with sports, like with many things in business, there is no need to really reinvent the wheel. And I think that maybe going back to what happened before and then tweaking that is probably the best way to move forward. But I would say that going back to the point that Felix had about the government, I think that not only the government but also the FA have their part of responsibility, but it doesn't only stop there. I think that infrastructure is a really key thing to making our football better. I was a couple weeks ago, I was in Rwanda, and I was able to see their sports district that they created, where they have the football stadium, they have the basketball arena, they have a smaller stadium there as well. And they have businesses that are part of this district. They have some hotels, etc. And I think that that's probably the way forward. And that only happens with a private and public association, right? A partnership. And that's probably what the government should be looking towards. They should be looking at building an ecosystem and building a system so that the private sector is able to funnel their way into the sports business, because we for a long time sports wasn't a business, and you can see it with the investment of private equity in sports. Blueco, for example, Chelsea, the amount of money that they put in with Clear Lake, that we're seeing that it really there's a huge opportunity in the world of sports, and that starts with infrastructure, and then it can go on from there. So the government and the federation need to make sure that they create opportunities for the private sector to be able to come through and help. And you can see that the Miller Games, which is an example of a private company doing something to contribute, is a good example.
Right.
And what do we do also at the higher levels, and having infrastructure as a key is something that needs to be pushed, because at the end of the day, if we don't have the right kinds of infrastructure, we talked about, AstroTurf, but there's different grades of AstroTurf. If we don't have the places for our young talents to be able to train and to do purposefully practice and get those 10,000 hours, they won't be able to make it to the top level. And yes, some of them will get the opportunity to go to Europe, but at a home level, as a Ghana, we need to rethink us.
approach.
As to what is our strategy, our approach, because not only on the technical direction side and on the coach side, we have to think of how do we ensure that there's a DNA in the way that our Ghanaian setups play, from the Black Stars to the Black Satellites to all around. And that's something that needs to be worked on.
Or even the infrastructure that will house the approach or the strategy itself. Very, very well put together by John Boafo. Joel Eshan is joining us for the first time from his base in the United States. Guys, I would want everyone's view on the quarterfinal and the semi-final. So, John, I'll be glad if you could stay on. Joel, good afternoon and welcome. Which state are you in? And I suppose it's probably morning where you are.
Yeah, good morning. I'm in New Jersey. It's around 9 here in New Jersey. I had wanted to have a small bite at the performance of the African teams at the World Cup.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think that I heard what my colleagues spoke about. They talk about the coaching, and then they talk about the mentality and then the changes and all that. But I think that one thing that they missed out on was the coaching. I believe that the Senegal Papi Thiaw and then Hussein Hassan, I particularly blame them for the defeats Egypt and then Senegal suffered, because I believe and in particular when you look at Enzo Fernandez goal in that game, when the cross came from Lautaro Martinez, it was only one Egyptian defender who was in the box supposed to defend against two Argentines. And the question I was asking myself was that where were the Egyptian players going? They were not losing the game. They had extra time to go and play. So I would have believed that the coach would talk to his team to stay compact and then take the game to extra time. It was highly unnecessary for the Egyptian players to attack the way they did in trying to go and then look for a match winner. The same thing with the game Senegal played against Belgium. They were fantastic for 60 minutes. The coach decided to do changes. Every player he brought on did not perform. And for me, that is the reason why the two of them lost. Their coaches could have managed the game better, because after 80 minutes and then you are leading, the most important thing you need to do is to manage the game and make sure that you cross the line. But the two coaches, they couldn't do that. And for me, that is the reason why they lost. Officiating was poor, but regardless, I will still blame the coaches for losing these two games.
Enough said. Let's move the conversation on. Sammy, I'm going to start with you. The quarterfinal games that we have seen, and then take it into the semis. First, the two semis that 2 quarters remaining. Because we have seen France beat Morocco, and Spain take on also the might of Belgium and get the better of them because of time. Of the 2 quarterfinal matches that you've seen, which of those 2 sides is favorites for Tuesday's game?
I think it's very difficult to predict, but then again, see, I've said that France really have a very, very good chance of winning, but I've not been convinced about their defense, especially Upamecano. I think he's playing alongside some very good players, and so those good players tend to complement him.
You're not convinced about Upamecano?
Yeah, I mean that's my own personal opinion.
Why is that?
I think that sometimes his decision making and how he that partnership with him and Saliba, of course, we've seen what he's done with Arsenal, brilliant player, Baos and that. But personally, I watch Upamecano, and I'm still not convinced with how he performs with this French national team.
Which games did this?
I think in the group phase.
Which games?
I think the second group game, and I think Paraguay too. Yeah, Paraguay he stepped out. I think that in the group in the 3 games that they played, Senegal, I think against the group games, because I remember that I've been able to watch all their games so far personally, but I think that the French side are very good, a very good team as a whole, Victor. And there is one thing that has been working perfectly for them.
Right.
Once they transition the ball from the defense to the midfield, and when we get to the final third or the forwards, those guys are capable of doing anything with the ball. And the reason why they've been scoring for fun, the reason why they've been have been finding ways to score. When the ball gets to the forward players, they try to keep the ball at that area. So it allows the defense line to relax a bit, to rest a bit, same as the midfielders a bit. Because all those 4 guys up front are clever and they know what to do with the ball. And we saw that perfectly against Morocco.
Right.
And I think that they were too strong for Morocco to contain them. And that is why Morocco had a very good 45 minutes. I still think that France were equally good to score in the first half. But I think Morocco found a way to keep them. But in the second half, it was about whom was going to be clinical up front. And when the going got tough for France, those 2 key players stepped out for them. Yesterday, we all watched, Spain against Belgium. I think that Belgium had that momentum when they rallied from 2-goal down to beat Senegal. But I think that it was always going to go down, as to how, when they come up against a very tough and a very difficult opposition, will they be able to break them down? That was the question. Of course, yesterday we were able to score, but it was always going to be the fact that Spain were always good enough to beat them. But between Spain and in France, how they've played, see, for Spain, they've been very good. It was just until yesterday they considered their first goal of the tournament. They've gone about 10 hours without considering a goal in this year's World Cup. See, I think it's very difficult. But I think that with the firepower that France they have at the moment, listen, it's very difficult to play against them. If Mbappe fails to score, somebody will step up. If Dembele fails to score, it's quite surprising that even Olise is yet to score. But the rest of the 3 guys up front, or the 2 players especially,
they've been scoring.
That's the most disturbing thing.
John, a lot of people gravitate towards France for the progress they've had over the last 4 years, but also just how easily they have been dispatching teams. They beat Morocco in that quarterfinal, and it still looked like they were a couple of paces off their regular rhythm. But by the same token, aren't we underestimating Spain? The last time they won the World Cup, it was just like this. Their games were boring. They were not creating a ton of chances. They would score when that opportunity presented itself, but largely it was by controlling games and playing stale possession. Shouldn't we trust that they can turn on the style against France, John?
Yeah, I think it will be a very interesting game because, like Lamine Yamal mentioned the last couple of times that Spain played against France, Spain ended up besting France. So Didier Deschamps and the rest of the team will be very conscious of that and try to find a way to get past this Spanish team. But I think that compared to the last couple of times that they did face them, the team is a bit different because Nico Williams isn't playing and Lamine Yamal is, coming back from his injury and he's not fully at 100%. So this French national team will probably be very confident in going against this matchup, thinking to themselves that they have been able to find a good style, a style that's not as pragmatic as it used to be, but they can get back into the pragmatism and they're able to face various kinds of opposition and still be able to triumph. They were able to face a team that seemed like they weren't interested in playing football and were more interested in a MMA or a boxing match, and they were still able to
get a result.
They were able to get the result. They were able to face a Senegalese team that started out really well, and then in the end they were able to turn on the style and get the result. So similar to all the previous matches, I think that if I were a betting man, I would probably end up betting on the French national team, because not only do they have that attacking prowess up top, but I would say even defensively it's quite solid. Saliba is really good. And then you saw, I would have to disagree with Sami. I like Upamecano because of his pace and how solid he is. So he's able to cover for the rest of the defenders when, Jules Koundé will go up. He's able to cover for him as well. But in the last game, you could also see that Didier Deschamps called for his left back and right back to be careful to not push up too much as well, because that's where you can find some chances, especially in the beginning of the World Cup. I felt that Jules Koundé, who hasn't been his best, was pushing up too much, or created too much space on the right-hand side that some of the teams were able to exploit. But now Didier Deschamps wants to be able to regulate, so both his left back and his right back don't push up too much. And I think he's found also some stability in Lucas Digne, because previously Hernandez didn't do too well.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a good game at the end of the day, and I'll be rooting definitely for the French national team. I'll be rooting for them to make it to the third final, back-to-back final, and hopefully they'll be able to win.
In the modern era, they will be only the second team to have done that after Brazil, over that 8-year stretch from US 94 when they won it, and then went to the final in France 98, lost it, and then came back in 2002 to win it by beating Germany. As for Dio Upamecano, look, you see, in the same way that we often talk about how this striker or that winger creates one of the most frightening scenes when they are running at you, Dio Upamecano is the defensive aspect of it, in the sense that one of the most frightening things for a striker or a forward is to know that he is the guy chasing you for the ball, because he will catch you. Dio Upamecano, he is that good with his recovery, and for my money, about the best centre back in the world. He definitely is top three, is not top two as we speak, and I rate him rather highly. Felix Romac. Let's start with the other quarterfinal matches coming up today. We are going to see England versus Norway in a game of two teams that have earned their stripes so far. What do you reckon?
Well, before the start of the World Cup, I was basically supporting three countries: Ghana, Norway, and any team playing against England. But if I have to be very objective, and
what has England done to you?
Oh, haven't you seen his tweet? Haven't you seen his tweet?
Nah.
Oh, he will explain himself.
Actually, I look at this English team, and I see a very average English team with three world-class players. So Jude Bellingham, Harry Kane, and then who again? Aside that, actually, the rest of them are too average. I don't see Pickford starting for any of the top European teams or any of the teams that are in the quarterfinals. Not for Argentina, not for Spain, not for France.
Really?
I look at their back. Yes, I look at their back four. Konsa, Maguire, Spencer at right back, who plays at left back. None of them. In midfield, so yeah, the three world-class players that I was talking about: Rice, Jude Bellingham, and then Harry Kane. These three players can walk into any of the top European countries, but the rest are very average. But you see, I look at the quality in this Norwegian team, and that is, they might not have the world-class players, but they play together as a team, and they've been consistent. If you look at their qualifiers, after getting rid of Italy and the other teams, they've been very consistent. The only bad performance they had at this World Cup was when they benched 10 players in their last game against France. But we've seen how good they've been. When they don't have the ball, they defend as a unit. I've even tagged Erling Haaland as a defensive-minded attacker. Because yes, he's scoring goals for the Norwegian team, but look at the defensive shift he's putting into games. He comes, defend set pieces, defend corner kicks. I think in the last game against Brazil, also I think the game against Senegal.
Yeah.
It was clearing balls from the 18-yard box. And that is how pragmatic they've been and the quality that this Norwegian team possesses, I'm going for them to win this particular game. But I wanted to have a quick one on the French team. If you want to see how good this French team is, go back to 2002 Japan Korea and look at that Brazilian team. I see the Brazilian team, I see this French team. Their front six of Mbappe, Doué, Dembele, Olise, that is Ronaldo, Rivaldo, Ronaldinho, Kebesin, Gilberto Silva. And you look at their defense. I see two different Upamecano's. The one in the Bayern shirt is awful. The one that
is it really? Because I feel like everyone uses that one mistake against him.
No, it's not about one mistake. It's not about that one.
Hold on.
Actually,
Felix,
at this World Cup.
Felix, hold on.
At this World Cup.
Felix, hold on. Felix, hold on. I want us to do a quick exercise and see how biased you people are. Does any of you remember Pau Kubasi's mistake against Inter Milan?
Yes.
But you don't hold it against him. Gabriel Magalhaes went to sleep in this World Cup against Norway.
Because Kubasi is young. How many?
Okay. How about the Gabriel example? Wait. How about the Gabriel example? Gabriel went to sleep twice against Erling Haaland. Twice against someone that he has an everlasting beef with.
Yeah.
He went to sleep twice in the same game. But he's given grace because he is good.
No, but that's what I'm saying. I
Felix, why can't you give? When it comes to Gabriel, we all know he is good. So he had an off day against Haaland. We move past it. Why don't you people give Upamecano the same grace?
That is what I'm saying. At this World Cup, if not one of the best, he's the best.
But this is typical of him. This is what he does all the time.
Yes. And like I was comparing to the Brazilian team.
Yeah.
You know, you look, I see Jules Conde playing more like Roberto Carlos. You know, though Carlos had a lot of strike.
Was Cafu on the right side?
Yes, was Cafu on the right side. And then you have Saliba playing more like maybe Junior Rocky or maybe I'll say Lucio. They don't have a very good goalkeeper, just like the Brazilian had in Marcos. But I look at the 2002 Brazilian team, and this is the French team. I was thinking that the Moroccan game will be their toughest test. But if you look at the games they've played, aside the Norwegian game, the game against Morocco was one of the easiest games they have played at this tournament. So for me, the only team that might stop them might be the Argentines. And it's not because Argentina are exceptional, but because they have a certain Messi, and then also they have a certain character that no football data or science can describe. They have so much confidence and believe in them. And one thing about the Argentines, when you want to play rough, they'll play with you. When you want to go hard, they'll play with you. They have always found a way in playing this European team. We saw how they handled the Dutch team last 4 years in the semi-finals and how they handled the French team. And in those games, they took the lead and then they had to fight back and regain their lead and won on penalties. So for me, I'm seeing France going to the finals and winning it. I'm seeing Argentina also getting to the finals. But today, Norway is getting the win against England.
Felix.
Okay. I'll mark all of you down. Joel Eshen is still on the line. Joel, talk to me about tonight's game and what's to come later tomorrow between Argentina and Switzerland. Who wins, England versus Norway?
Yeah, I think that England will progress to the next stage of the competition. And look, the Norway game against Brazil, they were good. But sitting at the stadium, I think that game was defined by fine margins. The penalty miss, that 1v1 miss from Hendrick, could have changed the complexion of the game. Because at the time, Brazil had the momentum. And if you look at the chances Brazil missed before Haaland's first goal, I think that none of the boys in the English attack will miss that opportunity. Harry Kane will bury that ball. The same with Jude Bellingham or Bukayo Saka, whom I strongly believe that is going to start this particular game. Norway, they've been good, and I think that they are going to face a tougher test than they got from the Brazilians, because we all know that this current English team are better than Brazil. And in terms of the coach who is leading this team, this is his first international assignment. But we know Thomas Tuchel, that he's a tournament coach. When it comes to not a tournament per se, but when it comes to playing in tough competitions, Thomas Tuchel is top from Mainz 05 to Borussia Dortmund to Paris Saint-Germain to Chelsea. You've seen his performances and in the cup games, even though his record in the final is not really at that level. But when it comes to getting to the final, Thomas Tuchel has always, found a way to make it to the final, and that is why I strongly believe that the English they have the experience, because you see, when it gets to this level, I believe that tournament experience counts very, 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 very much, and that is where I think that the English have the advantage over the Norwegians in securing the semi-final.
All right, quick prediction on the Argentina-Switzerland one as well. Quick prediction, who wins that?
Yeah, I think that Argentina will go through.
And who wins the semi-final?
Yeah, England will get the ticket to the final, because look, Argentina, they've not really been tested that much, and I still think that tomorrow Switzerland will not be able to give them the test that Argentina will need. Only England will give them.
Will give them that. And England will beat Argentina in the semi-final.
Yes, England will beat.
And the other semi-final?
The other semi-finals, I think that France will go through, because they have quality more than.
And who wins the final? We don't. Time is about. Yeah, we've got 3 minutes to check out. So let's be quick about this one. So you're saying that Argentina, England semi-final, England to make it to the final, France to make it to the final, and who wins the tournament?
I think that England is winning this tournament.
Okay.
Even though I would not want them to win, but then they will definitely bring it home this time around.
All right. Next week we'll be here to preview the final, because by this time the semis would have concluded.
Exactly.
But all of you have made. Okay, I think John is the only one who has not given us his semi-final pairing. John, you said you expect France to win that semi-final. Who goes through from the other side of the draw? England, Norway, Argentina, Switzerland?
I think Switzerland beats Argentina.
Wow.
That's a big one. England. And England, they made the.
Wait, what did you say? You said Norway will beat England?
No. England will win.
England will win.
Okay. England will go get to the final and then lose against France.
Yeah. So that's it from the guys. Sami says France to qualify.
Yep.
Argentina to qualify.
Yep.
And in the semis.
So the semis,
Yeah.
I think it's going to be Argentina, England, and Spain, France for me. And I think the final is going to be a repeat for me, the last edition.
France, Argentina again.
But I expect France to win it this time around.
All right, that's our show for today.
There is one upset. There is one upset in the semi-final, and it is in today's game.
That's our show for today. Thank you, Joel. Thank you, John. Thank you, Sammy. And thank you, Felix, for joining us on Sports Link on Joy 99.7 FM today. Before we go, though,
Shakira,
if
we are ready.
You are shipping from Ghana or importing to Ghana, shipping goods by air, sea, or land, Haps Global Logistics has you covered. And so if you're handling everything, or they're handling everything from customs clearance to warehousing right here in Ghana, Haps Global is a certified Emirates Sky cargo sales agent connecting Ghanaian businesses to over 150 destinations worldwide. And so if you want reliable freights you can trust, reach Haps Global Logistics today on websites hapsglobalgh.com, hapsglobalgh.com, or call them on 0506 189 615, 0506 189 615, or send them an email at sales@hapsglobalgh.com, sales@hapsglobalgh.com, and do business with them. Haps Global Logistics, your cargo, our care.
No one can take it away.
Later tonight, we're bringing you live commentary of England versus Norway. Daniel Cranton will be in the studios at 9 p.m. to bring you that commentary. Before that, there will be an hour of pre-match discussions on Joy Prime, and the match will be shown live on Joy Prime TV as well. So if you're close to a TV set, join Fenty Otairu. He is going to be on with Coach Christopher Namely, Coach Lai Kingston, David Akam, ex-Black Stars player. They will be on that show. So I've just been told that it's Razak Musbah who's hosting tonight's broadcast on Joy Prime. So do well to watch that big preview, because it's important that you understand the game from the context of coaches as well, and learn a thing or two from Coach Nimley, Coach Lai Kingston, and the ex-Black Stars player David Akam for that conversation with Razak Musbah on Joy Prime TV. It starts at 8 p.m. and then at 7 p.m. At 9 p.m., I beg your pardon, Daniel Cranty will bring you live commentary on radio. You can get to watch the match on Joy Prime TV, as I've said. Thank you for tuning in this afternoon to the Joy Sports Link. My name is Victor Atsu Tamakloe. Enjoy your weekend.